It's a very good morning here from Cheltenham, Gloucestershire. Hope everybody is well. We're live on stream, which is good news all round. Hope everybody is brilliantly well. It's Monday morning and middle of September really, and we're having a bit of an Indian summer here in the UK, if anyone's based here. Indian summers, of course, mean that you get it hot during the day and sunny, and cold at night. The central heating's thinking about coming on. Talking about central heating, got some great topics for you. Did you like the link there, did you? Not very good, but it'll do for a Monday morning, as they say. So we're going to get cracking with a number of topics, but you're able to type some questions if you want to, and I'll be able to read those for you. So let's get going, shall we? Let's get cracking with the first topic for you on CeMAP and mortgages. I'm Paul Archer, by the way, unless you didn't know that. Let's take a look at a little tiny topic for you called compound interest. So let's put a title up for you, compound interest. I bet you've heard of it before. And the reason I was reminded of compound interest, let's put that up for you for our first tip today. The reason I was reminded about compound interest is because Albert Einstein was quoted at the weekend in the press. And Albert Einstein, of course, probably one of the most intelligent people in the world, quoted that compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. I like that, don't you? The eighth wonder of the world. And it's probably quite true, really, because he then went on to say that he who understands it earns it, he who doesn't understand it pays it. And that kind of makes you think, doesn't it? Because the average person probably doesn't really understand what compound interest is. So what is compound interest, first of all? Well, compound interest is where you earn interest on top of your interest. That's the whole point behind it. So you put some money into a bank account, for example, a deposit account, and when it comes to CeMAP and the products, equity release and things, we're talking mostly about deposit accounts, bank deposit accounts, building deposit accounts, where you put money in, say you put £100 into the deposit account, and that grows. Now obviously it grows with interest. So for example, you might get 1% interest on that. And the whole point of compound interest is that when you earn your £1 in interest, because 1% £100 pound, then you get £101. And then the 1% is then applied to the £101. So you're getting interest on interest. So it kind of just goes up and goes up and goes up exponentially almost, isn't it? And you can work out the numbers as well. There's this thing called the rule of 72, which I've spoken about before. Now the rule of 72 is pretty cool really, because what that particular rule does is it allows you to calculate the compound effect. So for example, if I put in there 72 into my calculator, I then divide it by the interest rate that's applied, and it tells you how quickly it will be before that balance doubles in value. So if I grab my calculator, which I have here pre-prepared for you, and on there, for example, if I put in a 72 divided by 1, which is the interest rate I'm getting there, that gives me 72 years. So this is going to take 72 years for that account to double. So whatever you do, don't put your money in a deposit account, because it's pretty useless really, isn't it? Obviously, if you increase the interest rate, say for example, you got yourself 5%, you know, for example, if you do a peer-to-peer lending product or something a little bit more risky, then £100, so if we put 72 divided by 5, that means in 14 years, that account's going to double in value. That's compound effect, really. The opposite of compound is simple, so you have simple bonuses. Now, where's it used in CeMAP? Well, there's a number of product areas really that it picks up on. Obviously, we've got deposit accounts that we've spoken about before. You've got to understand how it works there. You've also got with profits bonuses. Remember, with profits funds from endowments. And the with profit fund has an annual bonus, as they used to call it, and the annual bonus or compound or reversionary bonus could let's say be 5%, and they're often compounded as well, which means you get a 5% on each year's previous bonuses. If you can remember, you get your sum assured, which is guaranteed. Each year you get annual bonuses added to your sum assured, and they also get paid out on maturity. Now the compound bonus means the 5% is applied to the whole figure rather than just the original sum assured. So that's the compound effect with profits, which you probably remember as well. Other connections of CeMAP, the one I like most is roll-up mortgages, so lifetime mortgages. So lifetime mortgages, where you have a roll-up mortgage, whereby you don't pay interest, of course. You have interest charged to your account, and the interest is added and then next year interest is added again. Again, that's compound, so you've got to be really careful with that. And the rule of 72 works really well with lifetime mortgages, because now you're getting some really good deals now, below 5%, below 4% sometimes, for the whole life of the mortgage until the person goes into home or dies. So you're looking at sort of 4% is the figure. That's compounded. Remember, it's 4% interest added to the mortgage debt. Then the following year, 4% is applied to the new mortgage debt, and the new mortgage debt, that's the compound effect. So again, you could grab a calculator, which I should do for you, and I'll put in there 72 divided by 4. So 18 years it'll be that this mortgage doubles in value. 18 years. Now, obviously, when you're selling these products, you get proper software that does it for you accurately. But the rule of 72 is pretty clever. So tell the customer, of course, the client, that if they take a lifetime mortgage at age, say, 70, well, when they're 88, that mortgage is going to double in value, which obviously may not be a good thing. So you need to make them aware of that. So that's the compound effect on that. Credit cards also affected by compound interest. If you don't pay off your debts, just pay the minimum, of course. The interest then is applied to the extra that keeps getting added to it, because interest gets added to the debt on a credit card. Remember Einstein's theory? Those who understand it earn it, those who don't pay it. I mean, I understand it fully, but I've been paying compound interest all my life pretty much. Don't have an awful lot of savings, and when I have done, it's usually gone into a property or something like that. But there we go. Hope that's been a good topic for you to start things off with. Great. Okay, let's get that rubbed out, shall we? And then we'll move on to another topic. We're going to take a look at a compliance topic next for you, because we all know that we love our compliance. I'm going to have a quick check here to see who we've got online, if anyone's coming through online with any questions and things as we speak, because we're on a live stream here as we speak. Okay, nothing coming down, so let's get cracking with our next topic area. Now, what I want to look at next for you is the topic. I want to take a look at compliance. Variety of advice is the topic for this one. Variety of advice. Let's put our title up there for you. Yeah, variety of advice. Now, when it comes to regulations and compliance, financial advice, mortgage brokers, equity release advisors all give advice. Now, last night I was watching. What was I watching? Peaky Blinders. Love that program. Before that, we were watching a commercial channel, and some commercials came on. And every single commercial was advertising an online website, which is pretty crazy, really, think about it, isn't it? These are online websites. You thought they'd use Google to advertise, wouldn't you? But they're using TV. Now, and the one that came out to me was Habito. Now, Habito, of course, is a mortgage broker which allows you to remortgage your product online. You know, it's using an app or tablet or whatever. And this is amazing stuff, isn't it? We know about this sort of thing. And a lot of people do this, and a lot of startups coming on the stream. Now, a lot of younger generation would love this. My dad, who's 82 now, would rather die in a ditch. I love that phrase, that comes from politics. Would rather die in a ditch than use an app to remortgage his property. So it does depend, of course, on what people need. Now, when it comes to giving advice, full advice, often called MCOB advice or COBS advice, is full, all the bells and whistles advice. We know about that. But there's other types of advice that you need to be aware of. The first one for you is what's known as basic advice, which is nice little term for it. Now, basic advice is not really around anymore. It was designed in the early noughties to coincide with stakeholder products. Do you remember stakeholder products? You probably read about it. You probably read about the stakeholder pension. But there was a suite of stakeholder products which Gordon Brown brought in. Remember Gordon Brown? Which were designed to be simple, cheap and cheerful type products, really. You had a stakeholder pension, you had a with profits fund, I think, some investments, all sorts of different product areas, which were cheap and simple. A bit like some, Tesco's value range, nothing against Tesco's. It died a death, it didn't work, no provider ever provided them. Stakeholder pensions were slightly different, but they never paid commissions, so no IFA ever sold them effectively. The whole point was that you gave basic advice. CAT standard mortgage is the other one as well, you probably remember talked about as well. charges access terms was the CAT standard mortgage. Again, only one provider, and it's nationwide, ever launched one of those things. It's all well and good the government telling you what to do, but if it's a private market, they're not going to pick them up, are they? So that's the first one for you. Now the second type of advice is known as generic, focused and simplified. So let's put that into sort of a big area there. Generic, focused, there you go, and simplified. Now I banded them all together because they should really be put together, but they are slightly different. Now these are, you probably don't come across this too much because it's usually fraught with a bit of danger. Now, generic advice, for example, is more guidance than advice. So it's not really advice, it's guidance over particular topics. So, you know, if you're going to give sort of guidance, you call it generic advice and you put it through a system that way as well. Focused is where there's a specific need area that you're focusing on. So, for example, it could be pension. Now, I had a chat with my IFA the other day about my retirement, my pension, looking at taking some money out of it. And that was, if you think about it, focused advice around a particular need area. It ignored all the other needs that I have. And I've got plenty of needs, I can tell you that. And the last one is simplified. This is where it's quick, no frills advice, which might be applicable in certain circumstances. No fact-finding required. So, okay, that's the theory. Would that ever happen in practice? Very, very rarely. Any company, IFA, mortgage broker, pardon me, is not going to get themselves involved so much in that area because it's fraught with danger, and compliance people get really scared about giving this kind of advice. They much prefer the full MCOB type advice because it covers all the angles they need as well. Now, one more for you is robo advice. Robo. Now that's the one that Habito's connected to, which obviously we know about. Robo-advice is a bit of a daft name, really. I mean, you don't get robots giving advice, do you? That doesn't work that way. It's all software, it's not hardware, as they say. So robo-advice, Habito is a great example in the mortgage field, although Habito actually is more of a hybrid. Now, robo-advice, strictly speaking, is where the app or the software, or what they call algorithms, artificial intelligence, algos, got all sorts of names for it, all software itself, intelligent software, learning software, gives the advice to you. And that's pretty cool. And I think it's great, I really do, because a lot of the stuff we do is pretty straightforward. Now the point here is that Habito have a hybrid, I'll talk about that in a second. Nutmeg is another example for you. Not the football move where they kick the ball in between the legs, that's known as a nutmeg, I bet you didn't know that. But Nutmeg is an IFA, effectively, that gives investment advice using passive funds as opposed to active funds. Passive funds are whereby like an index decides where you invest the money. It could be a FTSE 100 passive fund, which invests only in FTSE 100 companies. So recently, of course, Marks and Spencer dropped out. So the passive fund software would automatically take Marks and Spencer's out of your portfolio. There's no humans involved, it's all done automatically. Now, obviously, with these kind of products, the charges are rock bottom, so they should as well. There's an awful lot of money being made on charges at the moment, bit profiteering going on actually, if I'm honest with you. And these automated systems can bring down your fund management charges quite dramatically, which is great. So that's robo. Now the one to think about really for our future is hybrid. I love that term, don't you? Hybrid. Now hybrid is where it's at for us in the future. So that's where we want to focus our attention on. Now hybrid uses the best of both worlds. So take for example a mortgage advisor, mortgage broker, self-employed, network member, whatever. They're going to use an element of robo plus full advice to help the customer along the way. They're going to use, for example, Skype or some kind of video to communicate with the client. And once they've got the client in front of them, they're going to use various apps to help with the advice. They're going to use some software, some best advice software to find the right deal. They're going to use fact-finding software. They're going to use open banking software to go to the client's bank account to talk about, get all the information they need. They're going to use apps and software to do all the boring, mundane stuff. Now the advice is therefore created, and then when it comes to giving the advice, it's the translating, if you like, and the translating of all this robo app stuff into language that the client can understand. that's the advisor's role in the future. We're going to be the conduit between all this complicated software and the customer. Some customers will get it, you know, and they'll go straight to the software. But some customers will need us to interpret and bring a human element to it. How long that will last, I don't know, but you need to think about that very short term, five years or so is where that's going. Remember, of course, it takes somebody very intelligent to make something complex appear simple to understand. There's a lot of people that can make something simple very complex, so be careful on how you do that. Learn communication skills, describe stuff to clients, key thing. So that's future really. Basic, that's just a compliancy thing. Most people don't get involved in that area, that's gone anyway. That's something you might get tested on. Robo is important for the future, and the hybrid one is where it's at. Hope that's been good. Bye. Okay. Okie dokie. So looking down there at the live stream, can't see any live questions coming in. We don't tend to get live questions, which is great. We get them beforehand, and if you want to email me or put a little comment on YouTube or go onto LinkedIn and link in with me, find me there, get some information that way. I'm happy to take this information from you in any way possible. Obviously boot campers get to talk about this stuff, and they get like a full HD version of this live stream on their system as well, which is great. Okay, let's move on to another topic. Let me share with you a couple of pictures which I've pre-prepared here. And I've gone high tech today, so I've just printed off the pictures for you. Anybody recognise these pictures? I'll stick them up there for you. Got them from the newspaper or from the online newspaper. Let's just put those on there so you can see those clearly. Now, here we've got two pictures. Hopefully you've got them on your screen in front of you. Now, they involve this chap here called Robert Fiddler. He's a farmer based in Surrey, which is a rather nice part of the world. I was born in Surrey. And he's a farmer, and he built himself a house, like a mock Tudor castle, as you can see from the picture. Now, he's aware that to build properties or to alter or improve properties, you need planning permission, and that's the title of our little topic here. You need planning permission to do that, and we know these things. Now, Robert Fiddler knew this as well, but decided to try and avoid it, and he got wind of this 12-year rule, and he built this property, but he surrounded it by straw bales. Can you see this picture here of the straw? And there's an actual picture in 2001. Look, behind the straw bales was this mock Tudor house that the geezer built, and the whole point was he wanted to hide it from the council for 12 years or so he didn't have to get planning permission for it. But of course, technology took him on there. Google Earth, of course, was around in the early noughties. Google Maps, as it is now, was able to look down from space, and it saw this. Some keen bod saw this straw bale with the house in the middle. Decided to go and investigate, and they found it, and they got him to tear it down because he had to. He made a few quid because he went into the papers, and I think there's a TV programme of him as well. But so bless him, he's got himself a property but had to get knocked down. Now that's the point, you see, because when you have planning permission is there for a reason. It's there to make sure that any new building that goes up or any conversion of an existing dwelling in England, Wales and Scotland, of course Northern Ireland, has to have planning permission from the local authority. And it's a local authority thing. It's been subbed out to the local authority to deal with, and some are harder than others. They adhere to local planning laws and rules and all sorts of things. Now, you may have come across this thing called permitted rights. You might have heard of that. It's done rounds recently, permitted rights. Now, permitted rights is where you are permitted to do certain type of work without planning permission. So you don't need planning. Now, this is ignored in places such as conservation areas, designated conservation areas, heritage sites, national parks, areas of outstanding national beauty, that kind of stuff. Ignores permitted rights, and anything you do to a property must obtain planning permission. The house that we live in here in Cheltenham is in an area designated conservation area. I think all of Cheltenham is as well. What that means is anything at the front of the house you need planning permission for. Anything you do at all, you need planning. We, for example, a building cellar, I'll talk about it shortly, and we had to open up the window a little bit and then put a little light well in the front. We needed planning for that because it's in a designated conservation area, and you can't do much about that. Now, permitted rights, of course, allows you to do stuff without planning permission itself. Now, in 2013, this was extended quite dramatically with the coalition government, who wanted to encourage building. They wanted to give the economy a boost, you know, because that's when we were deep into recession, really. So they liberalised the laws as well. But it's only temporary, but they're still around. So you can get away with all sorts of extensions and things on your house now under permitted rights rules, which is not a bad thing as well. So anything else that's allowed, have a look at our revision guide. Our CeMAP 2 revision guide has got some lovely pictures in there about what you can do, extensions and roof extensions and sheds and conservatories and all sorts of things. So have a look there for you as well. So what's the process then in obtaining planning permission? The process is fairly straightforward. So let's put that up there for you. The process. The first thing then, if you think you need planning permission, is to contact the council, have a chat with the planning officers. They're always happy to talk. Ours here at Cheltenham have like these open surgeries where you can rock up at a certain time and have a chat with people, which is a great thing to do as well. And you can kind of pass a few ideas across. Or you can employ an architect who knows what's what in your local area. And the architect themselves would help you by drawing up the plans. So plans are drawn up of exactly what you want to scale, showing what you intend to do, etc., and all those good things. You see the plans, haven't you? Now, once the plans have been drawn up, you then submit the plans to the local authority, the planning department, with your requests for planning. You send in a fee. It's not cheap, never is. And the planning committee, careful, you've got a committee here, then make the next step. And the next step then is to advertise or promote the fact that you are looking to do this. They do this online, but also they do it with a little green poster outside the house, on a lamp post or something like that, to encourage neighbours to make comments. But it's all online now as well. And then there's a period of time. Ours took 12 weeks, I think it was, before we got a decision. And then they grant you your planning permission. They grant you the planning permission. And when they grant the planning permission, there's two types of planning they might grant. There's what's known as outline planning. There you go, outline planning. And there's full planning. Now we got full planning on ours. Outline might just be that. It might be that, you know, you're a builder and you've bought a plot of land and you want to make sure that you can get like rough planning permission, say for 6 dwellings on this plot of land. So you apply for outline planning and it kind of gives you an outline permission. You know, in theory you can do this, subject to the finer details, what they'll say. That's known as outline planning permission. The full is the one you want. Now for mortgage applications, if you're applying for a further advance or you're remortgaging to extend the property or improve it, the lender will want to see the planning permission that you've been granted. So you need to keep copies of that. And when you sell the house eventually, you want to show the fact that you had planning and keep the documentation. Now that's fine and dandy, easy peasy lemon squeezy. Now, the other thing that goes with planning, of course, which you've come across, is building consent. So let's just put that in there for you. Building consent. Now, building consent is very different to planning, but it's done at the same time. And the whole point about building consent is it looks for you to adhere to the way that you build the property or you build the extension. And you have to adhere to building regulations, as they call it. And there's 3 really. There's the quality of the construction. You know, whether you do cavity bricks, whatever it is, the quality of the construction needs to adhere to building regulations, the latest building regs as well. Energy efficiency, of course, is a big one nowadays, isn't it? As it should be as well, making sure it's energy efficient. And health and safety comes into it as well. Now on our property, we're converting the basement, as I mentioned before. We've had all the quality and the energy efficiency areas looked at. You know, the glass must be sort of, you know, allows no heat to escape, and those are double glazing, all those things. We had to install a fire escape as well for health and safety, and that's building consent. Now there used to be, or there still is, building control at the local authority who are regulated to do this, and that's fine. But they've outsourced it now as well. We use a local firm who have been authorised to deal with building control on behalf of the council. Councils, of course, are subbing everything out now, trying to save money. You still got to pay quite a bit of money, it's 600–700 quid to get your building regulations approval. And again, they will come along periodically to make sure that everything's been done properly. And I was chatting to a builder across the road earlier last week, and he was saying he takes photographs of the stages of his development in case building control want to see those. And then they sign it off, they give you a certificate, which again the mortgage lender will need if you're applying for a further advance or a remortgage if you're improving the property. And of course you'll need it to show the vendor or show the person you're buying the property from. If you're the vendor, you just show that you've got all this paperwork. I mean, I've scanned all mine in and I don't have paper copies anymore, so that's fine. So that's fairly straightforward. Let's now give you a quick case study, if I may, on exactly how this all works, because we've been working on a cellar conversion over the last couple of months now. So I just want to share with you how this is progressing, looking at some of the theory. Now, our property, if any of you are aware, is a terrace property. So we're one of a number of terraces. We're a terrace property here in Cheltenham. It's an 1840s property. Yeah, so originally built in 1840, so it's Victorian. Obviously, if you're into your history, it's pretty old. And we can't do anything to it. It's in a designated conservation area, so you can't build, you can't extend the roof or anything because you're not allowed to. Just the rules, aren't they? So we've decided to build down. Now, thankfully, when the property was built, there was a coal bunker, if you like, a coal cellar built in the property. A little hatch outside, so when the coalman turned up, he dumped the coal in this coal cellar and they brought it up when they needed it. It's just the way it worked in those days. There's no back entrance, you see, so there's no coal bunker around the back of the house. That's how they worked it. So we decided to convert the cellar then into a habitual building. So we got some architects involved. We've got a great local company of architects involved to help us draw up the plans, which they did, which was great. And they obtained planning permission for the window void for us as well, and the change of use into a habitual dwelling. So we had to apply for planning permission in the same way. We received that a few months ago as well. They submitted all the plans, which is fantastic. We then got a structural engineer involved. Structural engineers are people, surveyors, qualified surveyors, very much qualified surveyors, and they're into weights and loads and underpinning and structure. And what he came out with was some of the rules about underpinning, because as you can appreciate, we had to underpin the property further because it hadn't been dug down. So we had to, well, it's been done now, some underpinning going on. So, and we had to have a steel bar across as well. So he did all the weights and measures to help us do that. So that's the structural engineer. Let me just load up here. There we go. One seckie while I just press that button. There we go. Get that press. There we go. I'm back. So the structural engineer did do the plans and the weights and measures for the structural alterations of the property. Then we had to get a waterproofing firm in. Now the waterproofing firm, of course, is going to tank the cellar to make sure that there's no water coming in. We've got modern tanking methods we're using. We're using the drainage effect now rather than just putting a waterproof membrane on the walls. And I'll talk more about that at some point in the future. Very clever stuff as well. Then we had to get a party wall surveyor in, because as you can appreciate, we've got a party wall here. This wall here is a party wall. It's owned by number 22 where we are, and number 24. So the party wall surveyor came in and checked everything out, did his award, which took him a month or so, before we could progress, which was a bit of a nuisance. Didn't have to have one there because it's more than 3 metres away. So Party Wall Act came in there where there was a dispute between the two neighbours and he wanted to make sure we were doing it properly. And we got approval, so that's fine as well. The final thing we needed was building control. We needed to get building consent, so we got a local company in to sign off the actual building and construction of the property as well, of the digging. So that was the building control that we got as well. We've got a good contractor who's now doing the building, and the architect is supervising the progress, etc., that's going on. So that shows you how this all works in reality. The only problem is, and this is just a thing really, the total cost of this thing, whatever it costs, 20% of this we're paying on fees. Can you imagine that? In total, 20% is on fees, and we paid all these fees up front. You know, £2 for this guy, £3 for her. These are professional people, they charge a lot of money. And just made me think actually that there's an area of business that's ripe for disruption. So if you're looking at getting out of the mortgage business, I'd get a startup going where one provider does plans, structural engineer results, does party wall surveyors, does health and safety aspects as well, does the supervision. If you get one bod to do the whole thing, I reckon that's an area that's ripe for disruption actually. Maybe there's a business idea coming in. Hey, just a quick update for you on planning permission. Bye. There you go. So, nice little update there for you on planning permission. Alrighty, so we've come to an end on our live stream. It's just some topics there for you to enjoy. As always, if you're on the bootcamp, you get all this stuff on videos, you get all tons of stuff which you can access on your phones, tablets, email if you want more details. If you're on YouTube, we're going to get these out weekly for you. Coming through on LinkedIn shortly as well, they're doing a live stream service. So we're going to broadcast this as many people as we can, because I love doing it, it's great, it's the way the future is, isn't it? This is what it's about. And hopefully you're picking up some ideas, maybe some CPD, whatever it is your reason for watching. If you're doing the exams, hope it's been useful to help you. Those on bootcamps, if you've got any questions, submit them to me. I can answer them for you on live stream. Other than that, it's gone past here now, so I'm going to sign off now, and I'll see you all next week, same time. Bye. There you go.